Thanks for staying with us. Let's recap your top stories this hour. Police have vowed to get to the bottom of the spike in kidnappings targeting high-profile business people. Botswana's former president, eNCA, has accused his successor of being power-hungry. He says the current president is targeting his family. And as many Ukrainians continue to flee from the war-torn country, eNCA brings you details of the escalating refugee crisis. As the war continues to ravage Ukraine, Polish cities are experiencing a refugee crisis. More than 3 million people have left war-torn Ukraine, with the majority crossing into Poland. The situation is dire, with ordinary men and women assisting and feeding the refugees. The Polish government has now been called upon to offer even more aid as the number of people streaming across is increasing daily, and this seems to be no end in sight to the conflict. Our team is in Poland. Senior reporter Siphamandla Goge joins us for the latest on the humanitarian crisis. Siphamandla, we spoke to you a short while ago, and the situation, of course, was very dire, with volunteers saying that they are struggling to keep afloat as millions of Ukrainians enter neighboring countries such as Poland. Tell us where you are and what you are seeing.
We are in one of the sport complex centers here in Poland, near the border between Ukraine and Poland, and Komane will show you how this sporting facility has been converted into a refugee center with mattresses and beds and basically essentials for people who need shelter and accommodation. Those that arrive from Ukraine, they need accommodation the most, and they use this as a stopover center whereby they just stay here for a number of weeks up until they figure out what they are going to do. It may look empty now in terms of people inside, but the majority of them are already outside, and others have gone to the nearest town to try and get the essentials, even though they are provided with everything here. Food and accommodation is catered for. This is just a setup, one of many centers that have been put up across Poland as the country is battling with the influx of refugees from Ukraine. According to the United Nations, more than 3 million people have fled Ukraine, and in Poland alone there are now 2 million people confirmed to have arrived in Poland. And also within Ukraine internally, the United Nations says about 2 million people have been displaced internally. So this is a very common sight now in Poland, where you see shopping centers, malls, sports complexes being converted into centers to house and accommodate refugees. I've spotted one lady here who fled Ukraine about a week or so ago. We'll try and get a comment from her. She's one of those who have been able to make it out of Ukraine all the way to Poland. Thank you very much for your time. Let's talk about your journey. When did you leave Ukraine? When did you arrive here?
Hi, I left Ukraine today in the morning, and I left my city yesterday at 8 a.m. by train. The destination was from Kharkiv, Ukraine to Lviv, Ukraine. That's it.
How difficult was your journey? How painful was it to leave your home?
Right timing, so to say. I mean that I'm a lucky person, and I left my house after our Barabashova market, which is 30 minutes walk from my house, when it was destroyed. It was the day before yesterday. And I took a taxi. I mean that I was able to dial their number at 6 a.m. and the taxi came to my house at 6:30. And then I got to our railway station, and there was a long queue or line, I don't know the right word for that, of those who were leaving Kharkiv as well as me. And the train left Kharkiv at 8 a.m. yesterday.
You must be very devastated and emotional to leave your country, come to Poland and stay here in this makeshift accommodation center. How are things back home? Have you spoken to people who are back home? What are they saying about the situation in Kharkiv?
You know, our city was, so to say, under bombing day and night for 21 days. So staying emotional for 21 days is ridiculous. I wasn't emotional, and besides, how to say, I'm a lucky person to have friends from many other Ukrainian cities, and when I got emotional, I could call some person from Zaporozhye or other Kiev, Odessa, and other cities, and just talk to them. That was a perfect help, just to talk to the people who could just balance those emotions, because it wasn't easy at all to...
Did you leave anyone behind, maybe your son or your family members?
I worry about my grandson, who is 5 years old, and he is not far from Poltava. He is 5 years old, and who knows what's next. I want him to be safe.
Are you planning on staying here in Poland, or you will be traveling to other countries, maybe Germany, or for now you will wait here?
No. My daughter is employed. She currently lives in Sweden, and she started work there 2 years ago. So you see, I'm a person who has some help, and I know where to go, and I know that I will get the support I need. And not many people are like me. They do not know where to go, what to do, and I know that I will be safe, so to say.
Are you hoping to go back home one day once the war is over? Nobody knows how long it will last for.
You know, I have 8 blueberry bushes in my garden next to my house. I have so many people in my city who will go back as soon as the war ends. I know that not only Kharkovites, but people from all the Ukraine will do their best to rebuild, because Kharkiv, I don't know how to say it. When park is, when somebody throw bombs on parks and zoos and markets where people sell clothes, what's you know, it's like, how can it be? And as for coming back, you see, if my house, I mean, I have private house, not something like, I'm an ordinary person, and I'm not wealthy. But if the roof of my house or whole house is destroyed, then we'll go from there. You see, how can I plan something if I don't know what can be next? But that's the place. I mean, my house is my world. So.
Thank you very much. All the best to you. Thank you.
all the best to you as well. Thank you.
That's one of the Ukrainian citizens who's been able to make it out of the country, cross over to Poland. She says she considers herself privileged because at least she's got a plan. Her daughter is in Sweden. She may be able to get some help, but millions are not as privileged as her, and those millions, they would want the war to be over so that they can go back home.
Certainly. What a heartbreaking interview. Thank you so much for bringing us all that we need to know out in Poland. I mean, what stuck to me is that she says her house is her world and she has blueberry bushes, and you know, it's the small things that matter, and lives have been completely destroyed.